C word again. Capitalism is everywhere, including our minds and souls. Where is your place among constructed desires, chosen or assigned? You take a loan, go to uni, rent a room, play it cool, hopefully develop some critical thinking, and you're doomed. Education is viewed as a form of capital, but education under capitalism is getting twisted. This is Noji, a podcast brought to you by the Noji app, right from the underground of EdTech. Here we analyze things that shape our realities, and this episode is all about the dark economics of contemporary education. In the mid-20th century, French existentialist Albert Camus said, "School prepares us for life in a world that does not exist." In this day and age, we confirm it so hard, it hurts. Academia better serves as a way to escape reality, if you're privileged enough.
We've all heard about pretty privilege, but have we heard about educated privilege? One of my favorite things about being a law student is telling people I'm a law student. I hope that does not come out shallow or superficial. I'm a Christian, I'm Latina, so I take a lot of pride in being a law student. The moment that I tell someone that I'm a law student, I am treated better with way more respect, and I just feel like people value my opinion. It's the weirdest thing.
So, as always, we'll attempt to understand how we got here, how learning became less about knowledge and more about the brand name on your diploma. How did academia go from being a solid foundation to linear success into another class accessory? This is super ironic because historically, universities are very left, if not woke. Post-World War II, they were breeding grounds for radical thought, criticizing capitalism, questioning hierarchies, and naming oppression in all its shape-shifting forms. They still romanticize class struggle, but won't last a week outside the institution that funds their research on precarity. The uglier/prettier late-stage capitalism gets, the more academia looks like a bubble, a core, a spectacle. The Society of the Spectacle. That's what French theorist Guy Debord called his 1967 book, published just a year before the most famous student protests in history, Red May 1968. But he wasn't happy about it. He even killed himself later, because everything had already turned into a spectacle, even the protests inspired by his ideas and made by his close friends. So, by the spectacle, he meant a world where everything, even rebellion, is turned into an image, a performance, something to be watched rather than acted on. The spectacle observes resistance, strips it of its power, and turns it into a product. Think of Kendall Jenner opening a Pepsi at a staged protest, companies drowning us in rainbow flags, or fast fashion brands selling sustainability. This might be the greatest trick of capitalism, and Guy Debord called it recuperation, the process where once subversive ideas are absorbed, softened, and made to serve the very structure they originally opposed. So, nothing stays radical for long. Everything turns into a product. Your professors started out idealistic, but rigid structures and endless bureaucracies turned woke minds into conservators. But they meant well. Just like we know our parents weren't lying when they sold us the idea of linear success. But there is a thing. Those generations had much more money. The booming post-war economy mixed affordable education with stable jobs and a housing market that didn't demand your soul as collateral. Wages were pretty much growing alongside productivity, and everything made sense. This cute economic reality mostly held until the 70s, and after the oil crisis and neoliberalism, wages basically stopped increasing at the same rate as productivity. And by the 2008 crisis, all illusion of linear progress, already based on that, completely collapsed. That's when banks handed out risky home loans to people who couldn't afford them and then sold those loans as investments. And speaking of affording housing, this is a gentle reminder that you're not lazy because you belong to a different generation, you're just hopeless because previous generations made bad decisions.
I feel like our generation has been handed a bill for a party we didn't get to attend. So this is really one of the main sources of anger at older generations, at boomers in particular.
And here we are, yet another lost generation. Now, because universities no longer guarantee employment, while their price tags have skyrocketed, we are witnessing a full-blown moral panic about education. The system is breaking down in real time. Interesting, anxious times. We have force-fed TikTok teen crypto billionaires and tech entrepreneurs who've elevated bullshit jobs to an art form, selling digital nothingness. Then we're told that lifelong learning is the only solution to survive in this ever-evolving economy. Translation: your expensive degree is already obsolete, so please subscribe to our premium learning platform for just $49.99 a month. This isn't education, it's a subscription trap. Higher education has become a luxury product with diminishing returns, a perfect paradox for late capitalism. We are paying more for less while being told we need even more of it. There is an important book, Bullshit Jobs, by anarchist anthropologist David Graeber, where he argues that most bullshit jobs exist not because they are necessary, but because bureaucracies need to justify themselves.
Bullshit jobs I define as a job where even the person doing the job secretly believes the job really shouldn't exist.
And universities play right into this cycle. Degrees have become less about gaining knowledge and more about proving you can follow instructions, like an expensive rite of passage into the workforce. Jobs that once required nothing but common sense now demand degrees, not for the skills, but for the status. And as more people get them, the degree itself loses value, forcing everyone to level up, take another debt, and chase even higher credentials just to stay in the game. Universities aren't selling education, they are selling permission to exist in a system where meaning is optional, but credentials are mandatory. So economically speaking, there is this term flight to value, where people shift their money toward assets that offer the best investment return, especially in uncertain times. Practically, it means rethinking whether a degree is worth the debt. All of this gets even trickier because education isn't just a system, it's a deeply emotional idea. It's romanticized to the point where questioning it feels almost taboo, like rejecting a wisdom itself. It's a symbol of intelligence, discipline, and legitimacy. It's also a fun initiation. The parties, the friendships, the dark academia vibe, the feeling of stepping into something bigger than yourself. Education is a cultural experience. Hollywood made sure of that. You know, who didn't praise Elle Woods for getting into Harvard Law? What, like it's hard? But nothing is written in stone. We've been actually kind of collectively working on demystifying academia. Expectedly, YouTube has turned academic disappointment into a genre, starting from students under the hashtag postgrad depression.
So, you made it. It feels like just a moment ago, you were a child without a care in the world, and now you're here. You're a big kid now. You're gonna walk across that stage and out into adulthood. The world is your oyster. And the only question left to answer is, what the hell do you do now?
To those who went all in on academia, here's how a PhD in physics breaks it down in her video, My Dream Died and Now I'm Here.
When I signed up for studying at the university, I thought being a physicist was my dream job. But here I am on YouTube. How did that happen? I think I owe you an explanation. It made me realize that this institute wasn't about knowledge discovery. It was about money making. But I knew it was bullshit, just as most of the work in that area is currently bullshit, and just as most of academic research that your taxes pay for is almost certainly bullshit.
Well, academic careers are a whole other topic, but their problems stem from the same issues. We don't give tips on this podcast. If you want to know why, go listen to the previous episode, but here's a little something. Perhaps we should all feel a bit more reasonably lonely, meaning more existential freedom of vision and choice. To say the least, this is not the best time to opt for a degree just because it sounds good, or blindly hope that the system will show you the way, because, there is no way. But listen. There is creativity in figuring out how to live in uncertain times. And if you're already trapped in institutional education, get the Noji app for smarter exam prep or real deep learning. You can upload your textbook, lecture notes, set a prompt, and get flashcards to microlearn with a plan instead of cramming. Will there still be suffering? Yes. But it's always better to approach it with a research mind. All right, that's a wrap on episode 3. Thank you for your attention. Attention is the most important thing. And follow us on social media and hit subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts so you don't miss whatever comes next.